Taylor Gardner is the youngest brother that asks way too many questions. I love that.
That was me.
And is a world-long drive competitor in golf. Taylor is also a former member of USA Track and Field. Both brothers are Edison award-winning inventors and ironically bring their knowledge from both sports to find facts that work with the human body in any sport. They work with the MLB players, coaches, and scouts that are curious as to how these two men have studied such relevant information. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have Taylor on the line with us. So Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're on the golf course, but I appreciate you coming and taking our call.
Hey, not a problem, guys. Had to get my practice in today, and just keep driving the ball over 400 yards. So
Oh my
not
God.
easy to do, just playing normal golf.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So
But-
you were pretty much like a real-life Happy Gilmore. That's pretty awesome.
It's funny you say that. I actually do Happy Gilmore with the ball in my competitions. So
Oh, wow.
I didn't always. Used to just kind of use the conventional, big
Yeah.
long backswing, come through hard. Then I did the one step, baseball swing, if you will, and turned that actually into the Happy Gilmore, and I actually put on 35 yards doing the Happy Gilmore.
Wow.
So it's really fun to implement the knowledge and the human movement sciences with a passion for any sport, much less one I get to play for the rest of my life, being golf. So very
Yeah.
excited to still have that in my bag.
Well, we should. You should send us a video of you doing that, and we'll post it on our social media so people can see what you do. That'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, before we get started, I know I told you a little bit before we got on the air here, before our listeners. I want to start off by saying that we both use your product. We both have boys that play baseball. We have girls that play softball, and we've used this product for both of them. Tyler coaches as well, and he uses it in his workouts for when he's coaching. It's an excellent tool. It's very versatile, and we believe in it. We love it, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for being loyal customers before you called me. Sometimes I get people asking very interesting questions, not knowing what my product is yet.
Yeah, Taylor, there isn't a practice. There isn't a game. Every game that my team has, my son's baseball team that I coach, we use the Backspin Tee to warm up before every game. Every practice, no matter what we're doing, our kids take swings on the Backspin Tee every single practice, 2-3 times a week. There isn't a lesson that I don't do that I don't use the Backspin Tee for something in it. I completely, wholeheartedly love the product, and I love the stuff you guys post on social media. It's so intriguing. It makes the mind really think, makes you really analyze things, and for all that we've known about hitting a baseball, it's helping revolutionize the game for sure.
We almost called it the myth-busting tee, just for what we knew we were going to be able to put out there on social media. But call it the Backspin Tee, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions about that, so
Yeah.
I will save those long answers for them. But I hope our listeners are ready to get their minds hopefully widened a little bit, because I got some interesting stories that come from Hall of Famers to Silver Slugger Award winners and
Oh,
even
my.
current big leaguers.
Well, that's awesome. But listen, before we start talking about this tee, which I'm excited about, I don't want to skip past the resume too much because I thought that was pretty awesome. I know your brother's not on with you, but if you could just kind of touch on a little bit, just for our listeners that. I mean, I didn't even know any of this until I read your bio, and I was like, wow. So I think this would be interesting for people to hear. So if you can just give a little bit of tidbits and how ultimately that led you to creating this amazing product and starting your company.
Well, it's I think I'm actually the right person to ask as far as one of the two brothers. I'm sure my brother would give you the more baseball side, of answers, saying that we learned about the game, we're around flow players, and we know that line drives are good hits. Well, I come from a much more analytical standpoint, coming from track and field and golf. I love baseball, to be completely honest with you. But to be honest with you, as most young players can probably tell you, it gets a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, it even gets a little boring, to be completely honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
When you got coaches saying, stay on top of the ball, make sure you hit those rising line drives. And in the world of golf, it is inherently understood that you hit the bottom half of the ball. Like, you don't even have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You expect to break the tees that are under the ball because you're going to hit the bottom half of the golf ball. And we even in our world, we make clubs with different lofts to make sure that we hit even more or less of the bottom half, depending on what type of shot we want to take. So that going into, I graduated college, and oh man, you got to start my career doing something. I still love sports. I'm very involved with USA Track and Field, the human movement science part of things. And I go up to my brother who was in the middle of one of his pitching lessons. And it was this 9-year-old kid, and he's teaching him a changeup, basically a palm ball for this particular kid with very small hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always about down on the zone. We'll run this changeup and keep the ball down on the zone. So we get done with that. And the kid comes up to him as I'm standing next to him, my brother, and he says, "Hey, Coach, why do we always want to throw the ball down on the zone?" And he kind of looked at the kid. He looked at me like it was a no-brainer. Like, what are you talking about? I know you're 9 years old, but you're a baseball player. You should know this. And he gave him a very generic answer. Well, it's just harder to hit down there. So we're getting in the office afterwards, and I asked him, say, "Hey, Jarrett, I got a question for you. Why do you throw it low in the zone? Why are curveballs and sliders down in the zone, changeups down in the zone? What is so bad about elevating your changeup?" Of course, he laughs at me. "Oh, little brother, if I do that, I wouldn't have a job, being a professional pitching coach, or as much less as a player." I said, "Okay, but why? Tell me why." "Well, seems that when we hang our changeups, it's easier for the hitters to hit the ball into the outfield." I said, okay, that's a good reason. Why? Why are they hitting the ball into the outfield better on your hanging changeups? And we got to thinking about it, and that's when I mentioned to him, so, well, in golf, we call it an angle. We didn't call it launch angle necessarily, but we call it get your angles. And so I said that term has morphed into launch angle, but back to the resume, I was the brother who asked way too many questions, pissed off my older brother. "Hey, why are you asking me all this? I'm the pro." "Well, I don't care. You're my brother. I have to know these things because I just saw you not make sense to a 9-year-old, much less a 22-year-old. So something's wrong here." And I know baseball well enough at that time to question it. And so it broadened his mind. He was already very open-minded. And we took that philosophy of let's just ask why on everything. Let's just see what we can figure out. We had no intentions of inventing anything. And man, oh man, from the bottom half of the ball to figuring out that line drives are all hit at positive launch angles, to finding out that even your best ground balls, your one-hopping hard ground balls to the infield are still hit at positive launch angles. I want you to think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you're hitting below the equator of the ball. If you're hitting a ball at even 1 degree positive launch angle, it's coming from just below the equator. Now, it may only be a smidgen, if you will, a millimeter, but it is below.
Mm-hmm.
And so that blew my world away, going, oh, my gosh, this is stuff we know in golf. Why is the baseball world fighting about this on social media? Because that was about 5.5, 6 years ago, and that's when the social media world was still telling everyone, swing down, hit the top of the ball, which was just driving me crazy. So I became mad. And I think every ex-player of any sport, I don't care what sport you're in, you only realize how bad you were and how much better you could have been when you finally find information that proved what you were doing wrong.
Yeah.
And usually it happens after you're done playing. And everyone goes through that pissed off stage. Oh, my gosh, why didn't I know this? Oh, my gosh, why didn't I move schools and go to this coach? All the cliches, because we're all robots. Athletes are robots. We're told what to do, and we hope we're with the right coach to lead us along the way. And then, some athletes kind of get bashed for going out on their own, the Josh Donaldsons, going out there and saying what he says, or the Blackmans, I'm trying to swing up on the ball and get more lift. And so all of that to tell, long story short, to say that I was motivated to prove the baseball world wrong because I knew I already had an edge. Now, I didn't know very many big leaguers at the time. I didn't know very many coaches, and, of course, no one knew my name or anything like Backspin Tee. But I knew something they didn't, something every 7-year-old golfer in the world understands. The bottom half of the ball leads to proper angles. And it's something that simple that can just destroy coaches' worlds and philosophies that can be proven wrong. And, maybe that's just the ego in me. I don't know. But I sure do love proving people wrong with simple physics. And I love being proven wrong as well because it means I get to learn something.
That's a good way of looking at it.
So I'll tell you, the first thing that caught my eye whenever I saw this was the on-path bottom half. When I saw that and read that, my eyes lit up. I was like, holy cow. Like, that makes complete sense. On-path bottom half. And then I started looking at some of the stuff, and you talk about the visual aspect of the ball. And, for generations now, everybody's just put a ball on a tee, and you've stared at the top of the baseball. No matter where you put it in the strike zone for a hitter, the player using it, you're staring at the top of the baseball. And now you have a tee that you can visualize the bottom part of the baseball, which I was like, holy cow. I mean, everything you see in sports now, everything's changing. Sports psychology, you see motion, movement, testing and everything these guys are doing. I saw the on-path bottom half, and then I saw the ball, and you can see that you visualize the bottom part of it. And I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. Look at this. You can retrain your eyes. You can retrain your brain. You can retrain yourself to hit differently and not even realize you're doing it. So those are some of the things that I noticed. What about that makes your tee so much different than the competition?
So we try not to compare ourselves to other tees. To be completely honest with you, we love the Tanner tees, and I will never say anything bad about the original professional version tee that is the Tanner tee. They are a great company, and they've done nothing but support us. I want to make sure I put that on record. They are a great company, but we are different. And although that wasn't our motivation to make a better tee necessarily, as much as it was expose the simple truths of physics in this game, it is different. And I guess to answer your question of what might be, what aid, what better training could it add, and I will say this, it shows you the part of the ball that is on its true center mass of the ball coming in. And what I mean by that is, if you can imagine a ball sitting on a tee, and what I call the horizon line, what everyone thinks is the middle of the baseball. And you can even, imagine that in your head, or even point to it, or have your ball players point to the middle of the ball, and they'll all point to what they think is the middle of the ball. The problem is the middle of the ball, or the true center mass of the ball, actually changes on a pitch. And as you know, with tee work, the ball doesn't move. So how in the world am I supposed to simulate a moving pitch with simple tee work that every ball player is accustomed to? And how do we do that? We cover up the top half of the ball. It's actually, we only cover up about the top third, but we won't expose as much of the ball as we need to. But it actually, if you think about it, when the ball's coming in at a -7 to -10 degrees on its decline through the hitting zone, and every pitch comes down with gravity, by the way. There is no such thing as a rise ball. We'll talk about that later. But so the true center mass of the ball is actually on that -7 or -10 degrees, whatever it's coming on. So when you see a pitch tracer and it says it came through the hitting zone at -6 degrees, guess what? That's also where the true center mass of the ball is. That's where the true middle of the ball is. So although we use the term on path bottom half, what I'm really doing is tricking your mind into hitting the true center of the ball. It's just no one's ever thought about simulating a moving pitch with simple tee work.
It's very interesting. I'll tell you, I saw that and literally my eyes lit up. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same exact way. It made sense to me completely. And when you talked about, you don't realize how, you end up getting pissed off after you don't play anymore. Well, guess who doesn't play anymore? And I wish if these are things that I would have thought about as, growing up and through high school and things like that, baseball probably would have been a little more exciting for me, I think.
Keep your elbow up, keep your weight back, that type of swing down at the ball, Dan? Did you get tired of hearing that in life?
That's all I heard.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I heard.
Oh, goodness.
To be honest with you, baseball is about 20 years behind other sports as far as, I'll put it to you this way, I saw a tweet today, and I don't know who it was from, so I do apologize for not giving them credit, but it said the New England Patriots just hired on a martial arts instructor to help their defensive linemen, yet hitting Twitter is still trying to figure out what launch angle is. And I thought that was so hilarious today that it's so true, though. I mean, we're bickering over terms instead of the simple truths.
Well, that was a good segue to my next question. I mean, you brought it up a couple times already today. We're hearing all about launch angle this, launch angle that, exit velocity. How has this trend impacted your company? Because it seems like your product came at the right time, because this is kind of, I mean, this is blowing up right now. And do you see eye to eye with everything that they're talking about with launch angle? Like, if you can just talk about that for a while.
Absolutely. In fact, I have a lot to say about this matter. And we've even been accused of coming up with the term launch angle. No, we haven't. Launch angle is
that was my next question.
So let me say that again for the listeners. It's literally just the measurement. A ground ball has a launch angle. A foul ball has a launch angle. A pop-up to the catcher that has the most backspin that is recordable has a launch angle. Now, none of those sound like good hits because they're not. But guess what? They're still measurable. It's just the vertical angle off the bat. And I think launch angle absolutely gets accused of being confused with swing angle or attack angle or even swing path, whatever terms you want to use.
Yeah.
The bat path coming in is not launch angle. And then I hear this a lot. Well, swinging up will help the ball go up. Absolutely not. Neither will swinging down make the ball magically go down. Only if you hit on certain parts of the ball. Now, I do agree that swinging down, done over 100 swings with one kid or something, yeah, you're going to see more ground balls, but that's because they're coming from above the ball down to the top of it. That's because they're hitting the top of the ball. You only hit a ground ball or a pop-up, by the way, or a line drive or a fly ball, whatever, it doesn't matter, by hitting certain parts of the ball. Launch angles are merely the most detailed version of 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degrees, and you find where your angles are that lead to line drives. MLB.com states that a line drive is between a positive 10 and positive 25 degree range. That means that, a ball hit 5 degrees positive off your bat, again, could be those one-hopping hard ground balls. Nothing wrong with those, of course. But also a 28-degree low fly ball isn't bad either. So we're not coming out here, and I don't see anyone saying, don't be a line drive hitter. Well, I think what scares the public sometimes is they think launch angle means someone's trying to hit home runs. And now, don't get me wrong, there are some people out there saying, I'm trying to elevate my launch angles, into the 40-degree range, my home run angles, and that does scare people. We're not trying to say that. We're trying to explain that every hit has a launch angle, and it was kind of funny. It moved really fast on us. It was really easy to sell people on, hey, line drives are hit at positive launch angles. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. The Earth isn't flat anymore. And then someone somewhere influenced them. Well, all balls hit in the air. All you got to do is catch it. Well, guess what? The argument for ground balls, that you got to run to it, field it cleanly, throw it good, and the first baseman has to catch it cleanly. If an infielder doesn't do any of those correctly, it's called an error and not a hit.
I'll say, and the best ones.
Argument that ground ball.
And the best ones fielded at 99.6% of the time in the major leagues. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But people seem to forget that for some reason. That most ground balls are caught, as you just said, and the ones that do get through are the ones that are memorable to us because they were not the norm. A normal ground ball gets caught. Mm-hmm. That's why the ones that make it through the shoot the gap or everyone has a sigh of relief. Oh, no, I get to clap for my kid now because he got on base by luck, and as opposed to hitting it over the infielders. And so to touch a little bit more on that, do I see eye to eye with where the hitting world is on it? I'll be honest with you, I probably don't, as far as you just 100% fully see eye to eye with them, and that's because there's just so much confusion, still that you can't aim for launch angles, but I expect Timmy, little Timmy, to be able to hit left center gap and right center gap. Wait a second, how do you do that? Well, you hit a different part of the ball. Well, that's how you get launch angles. If you think a kid can aim a ground ball on a hit and run on command, guess what? You should also be able to ask him to hit a line drive on command. Now, I don't truly believe you can just aim shots on command. The game's too tough. The ball's moving. Obviously, it's the hardest game in the world. So I think everyone needs to settle down about what launch angles mean to them and understand that it's simply the measurement after contact, and it's derived from what part of the ball you hit.
That's perfect. And you know what I love? Actually, one of the things I love the most are your videos that you post on social media. And you talk about I remember watching your video of the ground ball launch angle that you guys used the pitching machine and you cranked it up to 90, 95, 105 miles an hour. And you were showing the balls what it took to get through the infield. I mean, everything you guys say, you back up through some science experiment on the field for people to, see it and visualize it and understand it. So, there's a thousand naysayers out there for your product, but I mean, it's very successful, and like I said, everything you're doing, you're showing it, so I'm trying to think of how I want to say it, but how do you get those people to come onto your side and really understand exactly what you're trying to get to with, it's not all for the fences. It's all about just, doing what you're saying and hitting that positive launch angle. I mean, you're backing everything up you say with your videos, but where?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So the on path part is. Oh, sorry. The on path part is what leads to contact. You cannot make contact with a ball if you're not on path with it at some point. Even if you swing down for that split second, you're on plane with a pitch or on path. You can make contact, but only if you're on time. No one talks about timing enough in this world. I'll get to that here in just a little bit. But how to bring the people over, the naysayers? I have one of two options. I've already told you about one of them. One, when they finally get out of this game or they finally get done coaching it or playing it, they'll see it. because there's only more information coming out. There's only so long you can look at a picture of a round Earth and convince yourself that it's still flat. So I'm not worried about the people that don't like me now. We're in it for the long run. And as far as the potential customer base goes, we just shove it down their throat. And I hate to say it like that, but how else are you going to get the truth into someone unless you at least put it in front of them? Now, anyone that follows our social media knows we will respond. The customer is not always right. And to be completely honest with you, in a hitting world where they don't know a lot of as much information as they would like to, most of the time when they make a statement, it's flawed. The customer is not always right because of that. How can you always be right if you're dealing with information that is incomplete? So we don't use philosophies. We don't want to get into hitting approaches. Now, obviously, if you get a lesson, hitting private lesson from us, we'll give you our scientific breakdown on where your eyes should be and what pitch to look for. By the way, you should always look for fastball. It's the fastest pitch the pitcher has. You'll never be late if you're on time for his fastest pitch. But as far as convincing more people about the simpleness of how to be a good hitter, it's going to take some time, but it's actually come a lot faster than we thought. So I don't know if we're really being forced to convince more people than we already thought we could.
You had mentioned a little bit, you kind of teased it a little bit. You were talking about pitches that rise, and I saw a video today on Instagram or Twitter, one of the two. It was with the fast pitch softball. And if you could talk on that a little bit, because I wasn't expecting to ask anything about that, but since you teased it, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Sure, absolutely. So in golf, it does happen. You got to hit the ball hard enough. There's got to be a certain amount of backspin. But here's something that no one realizes, and I didn't either until Dr. Alan Nathan and Dr. Butch Shanehalls, a couple of physicists and brain surgeons had pointed this out to me. There were studies done back in the 1980s that whether it's simple mathematical calculations or even baseballs and golf balls and cannonballs shot out of cannons, literally, or pitching machines for that matter, that if you're dealing with types of balls, baseballs, golf balls, tennis balls, whatever, some can have the ability to rise, some cannot. And let me explain this. A baseball only slows down after it is thrown or hit. When it leaves the bat, it does not accelerate. It literally leaves the bat at its top speed. Everything else from there will only slow down. And same for pitching. As soon as it leaves the hand, it only slows down. It also loses spin as well, unless you're dealing with some very gusty conditions. But it still slows down from its initial velocity and spin rate. Oh, and it also falls back at the speed of gravity, 32 feet per second for those keeping track at home. It's really hard to fight gravity. Nothing on this earth has except for helicopters and airplanes, and they have something called constant speed or acceleration. They have jet engines or blades that constantly spin at a certain rate or propel forward at a certain rate. Guess what? Baseball doesn't have that. Oh, and on top of that, it's made of leather and yarn that the seams would actually explode. So I'll give you the math real fast. Some of the studies that we found, a baseball would have to travel consistently, 220 miles an hour at 35 revolutions per second. I want you to imagine that in your head.
Sure.
Twice as hard as Giancarlo Stanton can hit a ball, and almost twice the spin rate that he hits his home runs at. And it can't slow down 1 mile an hour. And that's just to make a ball rise 1 inch, by the way, off its initial path.
Wow.
So as far as a rising ball goes, you can throw a ball straight up in the air. No one calls that a rise ball. They just call it a high throw or a high angle or something of that nature. And I think everyone knows the difference between a ball thrown up versus a ball rising. Now, there is some magical illusions going on here that magicians actually use, the trickery of eyesight. And it actually happens a lot in golf. Now, again, a golf ball can rise based on its speed, the makeup of the ball, its polyurethane cover, and all that stuff. However, even in golf, there's a lot of myths that some people think I made that ball rise. And then you go back and see on the slow motion video, it really didn't rise. You were looking down at the ball, you hit it up in the air, your eyes went up to find the ball. The illusion in your brain was that the ball rose. And no one can tell you that you didn't see it rise. You did see it rise, but only your brain saw it rise because that really fancy high-speed camera over there said no. And so that's kind of the world that we're living in. If you guys ever watched the documentary Fastball, they actually do a great job of talking about the illusion of the rise ball, even from Aroldis Chapman. You know, I think Bryce Harper says, no, it rises. And Hank Aaron says it rises. I don't care what these scientists say. And that's great. I believe them. They are seeing the ball rise, but only them in that particular moment in time. So it's a great world we live in. A lot of trickery. Our eyes aren't as good as we think, just because they're having a hard time tracking the ball, and it is tough.
It's incredibly tough for some of these guys. And if you look at some of the pitches, you talk about hitting fastballs. Some of these guys, splitters and stuff. Good, you better hit a fastball, because if you don't hit a fastball, you're in trouble. I mean, did you see that pitch that Syndergaard threw the other week, and it broke into the other batter's box? Goodness, you better hit a fastball.
Exactly. Pitchers are getting very specialized. We're seeing 3, 4, 5 pitchers a game now. People want to talk about the hitters. Where's the hitting going? Hitting's not going anywhere. College home runs are up. MLB runs are up, not just home runs, but runs, and you guys can look that up over the last couple of years. If people want to associate home runs to strikeouts, hey, those are two different things, man. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you swing straight up on the ball. If you're not on time, you won't hit it. That's why you're striking out. So, sure, if you're on path, you extend that contact zone, you extend that timeline that you have to hit the ball. But even still, I mean, if you swing down or up or anything but on path, you're limiting your timeline to hit that ball. You're not really limiting what part of the ball you can hit. And I think that's a big myth out there as well. But yes, some guys are swinging way too far up. I admit it. We come out there and we say that, and people say that we're going back on the word. No, we've always said on path. We might have used the term slightly up to get the point across, because it is, if you're swinging 7 or 10 degrees up in the air. But it's always been about getting on path.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the part that I think resonates when, get on pitch plane, get on path, that whole analogy kind of in a way. But, this tee isn't just used, for kids our age. Dan, he has a 5-year-old son, and I mean, I got a 15-year-old son, and we both got 9-year-old daughters. It's not just for that. It's not just for high school players. I know you guys have college teams using your tees, and now you're into the major leagues. I mean, can you just walk us through a little bit? Because I loved watching some of your spring training trip in the beginning of the year here with the MLB teams, and watching some of the coaches and players' reactions. Can you just walk us through that a little bit, and what their thoughts and ideas were? And because I think a couple of the players had never even used the tee before, and you were showing videos of them using them for the first time. So can you just walk us through a little bit about that?
That's exactly right. Sure. So 3 years ago, Manny Ramirez he actually called me. And, of course, I didn't know it was him. I answered the phone call, and there's an accent coming through the other end of the line that I was very unfamiliar with. And I said, this is Manny Ramirez, and I'd like to get a tee for me and my son. And he was with the Cubs. And he said, if you can, come at spring training, and we'll get your tee in front of these guys. And John Maley was the hitting coach at the time there. So we show up, and, of course, as you guys can imagine, these big leaguers are busy. These coaches are busy. So we get there, and we got this big – ginormous tee that weighs 18 pounds in our hands, compared to any other tee. And we're walking in, and this little lady goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, well, Manny Ramirez wanted us to come drop this off." She goes, "Oh, okay." "Oh, hey, you're the security. I have a metal object in my hand." And so we walk in, and there's John Maley throwing balls to Rizzo was there, and Chris Bryant. I think this was his rookie year. Yeah, I think that's right. And so we were just blown away, a little starstruck, except for my brother, because he's been around him. But it's still amazing. As a business, it's first time, as young baseball fans, first time to be in these cages. And everyone likes the tee for a different reason. Some guys look at it and fall in love with it for the attack angle and what it can lead to good launch angles for. Other guys love it just for the mere feel. Wow, if I hit the top of the ball, I hit that rubber cone, and that's what I don't want to do. And I just want to hit nothing but ball when I hit, take my proper swing. Okay. Matt Kemp tells us if I take my home run swing off a normal tee, I knock it over every time. That's the only reason he liked the Backspin Tee initially, was that, well, that's the first thing at least. It was, wow, that's why I really like it. So I feel like people are taking some time to realize this. These coaches, and even as this year with the Tigers and the Twins and the Cardinals and Red Sox that we got to mingle with, they're all they're searching to find something new that works. Everyone feels the game changing. Maybe it already has, and people are just catching up to it, even at the big league level, to be completely honest with you. Not everyone's on the same page. You got guys upstairs making decisions that guys at the playing level don't agree with. Guess what? That's a business. Yeah. It's also a part of sports. And so when we bring a product to them, whether they have or haven't seen it, they're all giving me a similar response. I like the idea. and then they look at it a little more. They see guys hit off of it, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I can do this, this, and this with it." Our product molds what we're finding, anyways. It's molding to these coaches and players' personal approaches and personal skill set, and we're not even having to say anything. I mean, yeah, we'll get into the on-path part. We'll get into the bottom half, but it's not shocking to them anymore that line drives are hitting the bottom half. Now everyone's finding better ways to use our products, and we're finding better ways to, adapt and build on with it.
Nice. That had to be pretty exciting. You said about being starstruck. I can't imagine. Especially, I love this story where you just walked right in and she's, "Oh yeah, go ahead." Especially since that tee looks nothing like a real tee. So you like
spaceship.
Yeah, it's like got a bazooka cannon on the end of it.
Did you buy a ticket for that thing for its own seat? No.
Yeah.
But you had talked a little bit about the attack angle, and we had mentioned earlier, with a regular tee, you can practice inside pitches, outside pitches, high and low, but that kind of limits what you can do with a regular tee. And I do know some things that about your product that kind of helps you approach different angles of how the pitchers come in. Because when you're seeing live pitching, it's not always going to be fastball right in those spots. So you have different angles you can work with. So talk about how your product can adapt to those types of angles.
Sure. So we actually have an advanced angle attachment that goes on our pro model tees, and we kept it simple. We could have made it very, very, integrated and hold the ball at any angle. And with that cone holding it from the top, you get the visual of any angle you want. For those that are having a hard time visualizing what I'm talking about, just go to our website and check it out. You'll see exactly what I'm saying. But so we have two main functions. We can either angle the cone towards the pitcher and give you the general visual of a ball coming down through the hitting zone. And, of course, you can move that up, down, high, low, inside, outside, out in front of the plate, deep on the plate, whatever you want to work on. Then we also can face the cone towards the batter. And we really like this one for working on balls down in the zone because, as we all know, a pitch, let's just say mid-thigh level or even below the knee, if you're going to swing at it, that barrel is going to be well below the hands. So I hate to say golf swing because people cringe when I say that, but you can imagine that the bat is angled like a golf shaft below the hands, and that's just called the barrel angle. It's in fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone swing with the barrel not below their hands. And then you say that, though, and people freak out. Oh, you don't want the barrel below the hands. And then the same coach says, keep your hands on top of the ball. That's the same thing. You're keeping your hands above the barrel. So that barrel angle is something that we're able to work on in also unison with the pitch path coming in. And when you work from results first, contact point obviously being the result we're wanting, good contact point, and you set your body up off of that contact point you're looking for, now we're in my world. We're in the golf fancy world of, hey, let's figure out this club angle, this attack angle, blah, blah, blah. Your body will adapt naturally. And I think everyone likes to have a natural swing, and obviously we understand the benefits of it. And so as opposed to starting from, hey, let's get in a good stance and hope that this one swing feels good, let's make sure we're in the right positions and then work our swing back to make sure we're in the right spots to do damage with.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the future? What is your innovation? You know what I mean? What you guys have been working and adding, a little bit here and there, and then you got the pregame tee and the standard. You got a few different models. What is the future for the Backspin Tee? What do you guys think else you can add to it for the future of the game?
So I got asked that similar question at the Edison Awards. We'd won the American Baseball Coaches Association's Products of the Year. 10 products did. And then we won the Edison Award for most innovative new sports invention. And when they asked me that, they were actually trying to replicate it to one of Thomas Edison's quotes that what innovation meant to him. And I didn't know how to answer it. And it didn't take me too long to come up with something, but that's a tough question because we have changed the game.
Yeah.
How am I going to change it again? And the simple answer is I don't want to change it. The goal was never to change anything. The goal has been to bring it back to glory, bring it back to truth, just understanding. I'm not going to be able to go out there and hit 50 home runs. I can't change the game, in that matter. So to have a product that is seen as that is wonderful. It's very humbling to us. But to be completely honest with you, our goal as a company is to be the most popular tea company in the world. I mean, we're in 4 different countries now, and we're growing very rapidly. And as soon as I think we're not big enough, I turn around and we got Dick's Sporting Goods calling us. saying, hey, we're going to start carrying your product.
Wow.
Okay. So it is a good question because I think customers and followers in general, they want to see us keep growing. They're rooting for our success, and we got to keep doing our job of coming up with innovative products to come with it. We've had some fun products come along the way, but we got to be careful because as soon as we start going too detailed, you start putting out. Well, I'll give you an example, and something that I love, the Blast Motion app that came out, or Diamond Kinetics has one as well, and I'm sure a few other companies do, but those are two that come to my mind. There's great information. You know, they give information every swing, and that's wonderful, and everyone needs one. If you don't have one, go get one. However, you got to know what you're doing with that information too, as with anything. I'm just using them as an example, and I think they would agree with me. That, you know, just because it says you swung at a 3-degree positive attack angle, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. It means I swung pretty flat, I think, almost close to zero. But the consumers have to I want to bring everyone up to par with on-path, bottom half, simple timing elements, and very simply how to get your body in position to get your bat on path with any pitch. And if I can accomplish that over social media, being the most followed batting products in the world on social media now, I think we're off to a good start. So I think the innovative changes will come with our natural growth.
Wow. So I have a couple more questions for you before we close out the podcast.
Sure.
But I wanted to see, is there anything else that you would like to talk about that we maybe didn't bring up? Because I know you got so many products and you guys are so successful, and you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, there's a couple things I need to make sure that I need to pick up from you guys, you know, sooner than later, just because my kids are just getting to that age right now where two different age groups where, you know, we got a 5-year-old and an almost 10-year-old, and, you know, they're kind of in different parts of their lives, but this thing could help them. So if there's anything that we missed that you want to talk about, please let us know.
Yes. So I would like everyone to realize that we work with some of the best hitting minds, not just in baseball, but in golf, as I keep mentioning. Even you know, we've had some contacts in the hockey world, cricket. They actually keep coming to us with they're very like-minded. I will say that. You know, the Reggie Smith and Ryan Lear come to mind. Joey Myers at Hidden Performance Lab, Matt Lyle come to mind. I mean, these are guys that we talk to on a very, if not weekly, at least, you know, monthly or bi-monthly basis, sharing ideas. And although everyone may have their different style, you know, of coaching, you know, players have their different style too, between a leg kick or no stride or just a heel lift or whatever, but it's all with the same human movement principles. And it's all about being on time and getting the barrel in the right place for maximum, you know, bat speed and collision with the ball. And something that I hope every follower of ours or anyone listening to this will understand when I say this. I don't want to be, you know, too disgruntled sounding when I say this, but there are more myths and bad things floating around, bad advice floating around the internet right now. If you don't know how to filter out that, then it can be bad. I'm not saying that any hitting drill in particular is bad, but let me give an example. I did an experiment. We wanted to find out how much power or exit speed was how we were measuring the power. That was for our experiment. If we didn't use our legs, so we took swings off our tees, and we had the radar guns out. You know, what would happen if we didn't move our legs? So we got in our stances, didn't take a stride, didn't take all we did was shift our weight and turn our shoulders and pulled our arms and bat around. It looked very goofy. Don't get me wrong. This was not a normal, good baseball swing. But it was an experiment. And we only lost like 20 to 25%, sometimes 30, depending on who the player was, their strength level, of our exit speed. Huh. Now, this was incredible. We took the legs out of it. Huh. And then someone said, well, you're still connected to the ground. You're using ground forces. I said, okay, cool. So we redid the experiment. We jumped out of chairs. While we were floating in midair, we were hitting balls. We jumped up off the ground. While we're floating in midair, we're hitting balls.
Is that covered under workman's comp? No.
You know, we strapped our feet together to make sure we couldn't shift our weight, you know, and get any extra leverage that the ground might be. We took the legs and ground out of it. It just went with spinal engine mechanics and core, stomach, obliques, lower back, just upper body. And guess what? The numbers didn't change. At most, we lost about 40% of our exit speed capabilities, which, you know, it's a lot, but it's not like we lost 80%. We were still hitting balls in the 60s and 70 mile an hour range. for some of us. I mean, think about that. It's been told for so long that your hips are where your power comes from, or that your back foot's what starts the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I ask anyone listening to go watch any golfer, if at the moment of contact, if their back foot is turned yet. You will not find it.
I think
it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's scary, actually. I think I posted on Ricky Fowler doing that earlier.
Yeah, I was
today
just about to say it. I saw that.
Now, there's some differences. Obviously, golf, you hit the ball between your feet, obviously, every time. In baseball, it's a higher elevated pitch, obviously. So there's some changes in angles there. And I understand that. And you know what? You will find the back foot turning more in baseball. Don't get me wrong. But that's because there's more of a weight shift, block and return. Guys are going forward towards the ball. Maybe just a few inches, some more than that. But you actually are swinging a heavier object.
Yeah.
So there's some principles that change there. Your body has to stabilize, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, your hips are made of bone. They're a joint. The hip is a joint. It is not made for rotational power. There's studies on that you can actually hurt your lower back trying to overspin it. And on top of that, if you really truly believe in ground forces and staying connected, which I do, why would twisting your back foot ever give you more power to the ground? If you're playing a game of tug of war, I promise you, the guy who twists his back foot first is going to lose. It's just the way that the kinetic chain works in the body. So there's a lot more weight into the front foot impact than I think people realize. Again, as you guys know, I'm not saying anything I haven't studied. I didn't know any of this. I am right there with everyone else that is just interested. And if I can do it, not even being involved in the sport, if you will, I know anyone else can too. So I hope everyone listening or watching this on the video platform that you guys will be uploading, I hope they'll understand that there's styles. You can find guys that pick their back foot up, whether it's recommended or not. It happens. You can find guys that have a sideways back foot. We post a lot about that. They hit the ball, and George Springer does it. Hits the ball, and his back heel goes down behind his toe. There's actually a timing element there. He's trying not to spin off the ball. Whether he knows it or not, his body is showing that, if you will. And there's a big thing called feel versus real, and this is the world that whether it's selling a tee or just talking hitting, feel versus real is dominating this game, and I wish it would stop. I really wish that players and coaches would understand that both are going to exist. Let's make them exist happily in the sport. Players are going to have feel. That's great. You're going to, I feel different about my ex-girlfriends back in the day. Feelings change. If you ever try and play golf, feelings change in your swing. It's ridiculous, and they also change daily, and they can also change in between swings during at bats. So we need to understand the real principles, the simple physics of what's going on path, bottom half, if you will, and you apply your own feel to it, and that's fine. But coaches need to understand the real first before they ever try and tell someone what it should feel like. Because if you tell someone it should feel like you're swinging down, and that kid does swing down and hits a ground ball to the pitcher, what can he change if he did exactly what you wanted him to?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a lesson got to be learned by a lot of people out there.
Oh, it's crazy.
Thanks for joining us on this, and we're about to wind down here. You've given us so much information and all of that, and we really appreciate you jumping on. Where can our listeners who don't know about your product yet, where can they find you at online and learn more about your products? What social media are you on? And let them know, and whatever promotions you have coming up or that you already have out for them to be able to jump on.
Sure, absolutely. So you can go to Facebook and just type in Backspin Tee. That's our biggest following there. You can go to Instagram, same thing. We have a Twitter page. We aren't as active on Twitter. Just the platform itself, being a product, is a little bit different. But you can still find us on Twitter. And what we do post on Twitter is very informative, but it won't be blowing up your news feed. We will blow up your news feed on Facebook and Instagram. Fair warning there. We do not blow up anyone's emails. If anyone wants to go to our website, if you sign up for our email list, all we do is offer you discount codes. We'll let you know when future sales or discount sales are going to happen. Our biggest sales are during the holidays. We're actually about to run a sale here in a few weeks. We're giving away a free bat seat. If you guys can go to the website and check that, it's a wooden bat seat you put on your bat. Doesn't hurt the bat at all, and it gives your coaches or players an emergency seat to sit on at the games. That way, you're not taking up some grandma's lawn chair. But so you can get a free bat seat with the pregame tee, and we're going to go ahead and discount that pregame tee $85 off. Normally $149.99. We're let that thing go for a $64.99 plus shipping there with a free bat seat. So
Are you gonna
a lot of
crash?
money to be saved here soon.
Are you gonna crash your internet? Are you gonna crash your webpage
I knew
again
that
like you
was
did before
coming.
Christmas? I mean, that was the
That
craziest
was
thing I'd ever seen.
unbelievable.
I jumped on that deal so fast; it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I stayed up till like 2 a.m. hitting refresh every time you guys posted something, just so I could make sure that I was one of those people that got in on that deal.
So that deal was when we reached 50,000 followers, we're going to sell pregame tees for $50, and it crashed before we even hit. We were about 400 followers away, and it was already getting crammed up. It was unbelievable. Golly, I think we sold like 900 tees in like it was something stupid like 3 minutes. It was crazy.
That reminded me of like a Shark Tank thing where these people go on Shark Tank and then like they're not ready to make the sale. You know what I mean? That's what that reminded me of. That was, and you kept posting. We crashed the internet. It was awesome. I loved following along with that, honestly, and I was super excited for you guys and that and all the people that were jumping in. I want to get in. I want to get in. I want to get in. I loved watching the your Instagram and Facebook just messages fill up because I was excited for people to jump in and finally realize that they're and I'm sure a lot of people were doing it for their younger kids for Christmas and the holidays and all. So I was really as a person in the game coaching it, I love that these parents were jumping on board for their kids to invest some money in it because I see so much of the stuff. People are like, oh, your tee costs too much money, but people have no problem spending $300 on a bat or $300 on a glove as opposed to spending half of that on one of these tees that could revolutionize your entire game. And people don't realize
then it comes with a lifetime warranty. Literally, it's a one-time purchase. We're not asking to buy a new tee every year. In fact, we don't want you to. I want you to get this tee and grow with it. Let it help you. It's not a one-fix-all. Duh. It's a good training product, but it is so different that it may feel like a match made in heaven. Don't get me wrong, but it's simply because that's just how far off your swing was before. And it's okay to say that. We all have stuff to work on.
Mm. Well, like we said, we appreciate you coming in. One, this was such an informative interview, and I have a feeling we're going to have some listeners that are going to be jumping onto the Backspin bandwagon for sure because I mean you just gave us so much science, and I love it. I do have one last question for you. This is the question that we ask every single one of our interviews, the people we interview. And I tried to give you a heads up on this, so I'm not sure if you saw that or not. But if you had one at bat in the major leagues, what would you pick for your walkout song to the plate? What song would you pick?
Oh man, if I had to pick one walkout song. One at bat. I'm gonna have to do the theme music to The Natural. I just wouldn't feel right without it. I don't need too many words. Just need the percussion instruments and the feel of knowing what's about to become real.
That's awesome. And with you hitting the golf ball 400 yards, I mean, it might be possible for you to get enough backspin on that ball that you rip the cover off of it.
I'll let you guys know this. I'm 6 foot, 190 pounds, and by no means am I a big guy. I was probably 6 foot, 160 for a long time. With these, what we've learned with these hitting principles. I was able to hit a baseball, exit speed-wise, to go from 78 to 97 miles an hour. I have on record I hit a baseball 97 miles an hour, and I'm not a big guy. Mm-hmm. It's just maximizing what your body can do on time for maximum collision and energy transfer. So, again, if I can do this with just simply curiosity, I can only imagine what someone would do being 15 years old again with a great athletic body, or even not. Maybe someone that had skinny little bird legs like I did. And what they could do with all this new information.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we hope that we know our listeners are going to get so much out of this. So we appreciate it, and we hope to talk to you soon, and maybe even have you on again.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and call me soon.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it. Have a good one, and hit the ball as far as you've ever hit it.
All right, bud. I'm driving up to the tee box right now. Thank you.
All right.
See ya.
See
Bye.
ya.